Rain fell softly on the empty streets as the city slowly woke up. Emma Bennett pulled her coat tighter, fighting against the autumn wind. The morning felt heavier than usual, perhaps because of the anniversary tomorrow. 1 year since she had left veterinary school, since she had lost her ability to trust her own healing hands. A sound caught her attention, not the usual scurrying of city creatures, but something deliberate. Behind the grocery store dumpster sat a cardboard box, partially sheltered from the rain. The sound came again, a gentle tapping, rhythmic and purposeful. Inside the box, a white rabbit with unusual gray markings sat upright, watching her with extraordinary composure. Unlike most abandoned animals, it showed no panic, no desperate attempt to flee. Instead, its deep amber eyes met Emma's with a steady gaze that seemed to hold years of wisdom. Despite its matted fur and obvious signs of neglect, the rabbit maintained a dignity that struck Emma's heart. The rabbit's condition told a story of recent hardship, but subtle details hinted at a gentler past. Its fur, though now dirty, showed signs of expert grooming beneath the tangles. The gray patches formed an almost perfect symmetrical pattern, suggesting careful breeding. A weathered ribbon around its neck bore traces of what must have once been elegant embroidery. As Emma knelt beside the box, her medical training kicked in. The rabbit's breathing was labored, its sides moving too quickly in the cold air. But when she moved closer, something remarkable happened. Instead of cowering, the rabbit shifted slightly, adjusting its position to make itself more visible for examination. The movement was subtle but deliberate, almost like a patient presenting itself to a doctor. Years of working with animals had taught Emma to read their fear, their pain, their trust. This rabbit's eyes held something she had never seen before. Pain, yes, but also a profound intelligence, an awareness that seemed to reach beyond animal instinct. When it blinked up at her, Emma felt an inexplicable sense of recognition, as if this meeting had been destined. The contents of the box told their own story. Instead of the usual discarded pet supplies, she found traces of premium feed pellets, fragments of specialized grooming tools. Whoever had owned this rabbit had invested in its care, making its abandonment even more puzzling. A small, water-stained card caught her eye, its writing too faded to read, but its elegant design suggesting something more than a typical pet store purchase. Emma's hands trembled as she reached for her phone. The shelter where she worked was already overcrowded, their resources stretched thin. They rarely took in rabbits, focusing instead on the city's overwhelming cat and dog population. But something about this creature's quiet dignity demanded more than just basic rescue. The rabbit watched her every movement, its ears tracking her with precise attention. When she moved to check its condition, it shifted cooperatively, displaying an understanding of handling that spoke of extensive training. Despite its obvious weakness, each movement carried a grace that hinted at a remarkable past. As Emma gently lifted the rabbit, its true condition became clear. Beyond the surface neglect lay signs of refined breeding. The bone structure, the distinctive markings, even the way it carried itself, even in distress, pointed to something special. This was no ordinary pet shop rabbit. The morning traffic began to build, but time seemed to slow in their quiet corner behind the store. The rabbit's heart beat against Emma's palms, its rhythm somehow synchronizing with her own. In that moment, the weight of her past failures, the memories of other animals she couldn't save, felt less crushing. Wrapping her scarf around the trembling creature, Emma noticed how it leaned into her warmth with cautious trust. Each small movement revealed both its training and its intelligence. The way it positioned itself in her arms spoke of show handling. Its response to her gentle touch suggested years of human interaction. Yet something had gone terribly wrong. A delivery truck rumbled past, and the rabbit tensed. In that moment of fear, it pressed closer to Emma, choosing trust over terror. The simple action broke something open in Emma's heart. Here was a creature that, despite whatever traumas it had endured, still held the capacity to trust. Walking toward the shelter, Emma felt a growing certainty that this rescue was different. The rabbit's presence in her arms seemed to awaken something she had thought lost forever. Not just her compassion, but her conviction that she could make a difference, that perhaps her deepest wounds could become the source of her greatest strength. This wasn't just about saving an abandoned rabbit. Something about this creature's quiet dignity, its extraordinary composure in the face of adversity, suggested a story far more remarkable than a simple rescue. As the shelter came into view, Emma knew with growing certainty that this morning would mark the beginning of something profound, a journey that would surprise them all. The journey to the emergency veterinary clinic felt like the longest of Emma's life. Each raindrop that fell seemed to echo the precious seconds ticking away. The rabbit lay still in her arms, its breathing growing more labored with each passing moment. Yet even in its weakened state, it maintained that inexplicable poise, its eyes remaining focused and alert. Through the clinic's doors, the harsh fluorescent lights revealed the true extent of the rabbit's condition. Dr. Maya Patel's expression grew increasingly concerned as she conducted her examination. The initial assessment painted a grim picture. Severe dehydration had left the rabbit system struggling. Its temperature ran dangerously low, and signs of pneumonia clouded its breathing. Yet something about this patient caught Dr. Patel's professional attention. The rabbit's responses to examination showed unusual cooperation, almost as if it understood the purpose of each test. When the stethoscope touched its chest, it automatically shifted to provide better access. During the temperature check, it remained perfectly still, displaying a level of patience that spoke of extensive medical handling in its past. As hours passed in a blur of medical interventions, Emma noticed more peculiarities. The rabbit responded to certain words with subtle ear movements, suggesting command training. Its eyes followed the medical instruments with an awareness that went beyond simple animal curiosity. Even in its weakened state, it demonstrated an extraordinary ability to remain calm during procedures that would typically require gentle restraint. The turning point came during a critical moment. The rabbit's vital signs had begun to fade, its body finally succumbing to the accumulated trauma. Dr. Patel worked frantically to stabilize its condition. In that crucial moment, Emma found herself humming softly, an old habit from her veterinary school days. The rabbit's ears twitched, and its breathing suddenly steadied, as if drawing strength from the simple melody. Throughout the afternoon, small signs of improvement emerged. Each one defied the increasingly dire prognosis. The rabbit's temperature slowly normalized. Its breathing eased. Most remarkably, it began responding to treatment with an almost collaborative spirit, turning or lifting its head before being prompted, accepting medication with surprising cooperation. Emma remained long after her shelter shift had ended, watching the subtle signs of recovery unfold. Her presence seemed to provide comfort to the unusual patient, whose eyes would occasionally seek her out across the room. In those moments, Emma felt an inexplicable connection forming, deeper than any she had experienced since leaving veterinary school. As evening approached, Dr. Patel made an intriguing discovery during a more thorough examination. Beneath the matted fur, patterns emerged that suggested this rabbit came from no ordinary breeding line. The bone structure, the distinctive markings, even the way its whiskers aligned spoke of careful genetic selection. This had been a meticulously bred animal, likely worth considerable value before its abandonment. More mysteries surfaced as the staff cleaned years of neglect from the rabbit's coat. Unusual scars told stories of professional medical care, far beyond typical pet treatment. The way the rabbit responded to routine procedures suggested countless hours in show rings or medical facilities. Yet these hints of its prestigious past only made its current condition more puzzling. Through the night, Emma observed moments that challenged her understanding of animal behavior. The rabbit anticipated routine checks, positioning itself correctly before the staff arrived. It showed remarkable patience during uncomfortable procedures, maintaining an almost meditative calm. Most intriguingly, it displayed signs of attempting to communicate, using subtle head movements and eye contact in almost human-like ways. By morning, the rabbit had stabilized enough to surprise even Dr. Patel. Its recovery rate exceeded all expectations, showing a determination that seemed to border on the impossible. Even more remarkable was its apparent awareness of its own healing process, cooperating with treatments in ways that suggested deep understanding. The medical staff found themselves drawn to this unusual patient. Something about its dignified presence and inexplicable intelligence created an atmosphere of wonder in the clinic. Even the most experienced veterinary technicians commented on its extraordinary behaviors, its ability to remain composed despite its ordeal. As dawn broke, Emma sat beside the recovery kennel, watching the gentle rise and fall of the rabbit's breathing. In the quiet morning hours, she felt her own healing beginning. This creature's fight for survival, its quiet dignity in the face of overwhelming odds, sparked something within her that she had thought forever lost. The rabbit slept peacefully now, its body finally reaching a stable temperature. Yet questions multiplied with each passing hour. Who had owned this remarkable animal? What circumstances had led to its abandonment? And most intriguingly, what other surprises lay waiting to be discovered behind those intelligent eyes? During the quiet morning hours at the clinic, an unexpected discovery changed everything. As Emma completed her early checks, soft classical music played through the clinic speakers. The recovering rabbit suddenly lifted its head, ears perked with focused attention. When Bach's Cello Suite No. 1 filled the room, it moved with practiced precision, following patterns that spoke of careful training. The morning staff gathered around the recovery area, watching in amazement as the rabbit performed what could only be described as choreographed movements. Each gesture matched the music's rhythm perfectly, revealing years of professional handling. These weren't random motions, but deliberate, practiced responses that hinted at an extraordinary past. Dr. Patel's thorough examination revealed more surprises. Hidden under layers of matted fur, a tiny microchip told a remarkable story. Records identified the rabbit as Aurora, a champion show animal worth thousands of dollars. Photographs from prestigious competitions showed her with perfect white fur adorned with distinctive gray markings, collecting ribbons and trophies across the country. The story spread quickly through social media, catching the attention of the show rabbit community. Messages poured in from across the nation, revealing a disturbing pattern. Other champions had vanished from competitions over the past year, victims of a sophisticated theft ring targeting valuable show animals. Aurora's disappearance had made headlines in specialty breeding magazines, her value not just monetary but genetic. Former handlers came forward with videos showcasing Aurora's remarkable abilities. The footage showed her executing complex routines, responding to subtle hand signals, and displaying intelligence far beyond typical rabbit behavior. Her previous owner, a renowned breeder, had spent years developing her unique talents. The mystery of how such a valuable animal ended up abandoned behind a grocery store deepened. Officer Maria Rodriguez arrived to document the case, adding it to an ongoing investigation into high-profile pet theft. Security footage from nearby buildings suggested Aurora's abandonment had been carefully timed, possibly as pressure mounted on the theft ring. Each piece of evidence revealed layers of criminal sophistication that had targeted show animals across state lines. As Aurora's strength returned, so did signs of her past trauma. Nights brought episodes of distress, moments when her composed demeanor cracked to reveal the frightened creature beneath. During these times, she would press herself into corners, her trained poise giving way to primal fear. Yet even in these moments, her responses showed remarkable awareness. Emma spent hours sitting near Aurora's enclosure, reading medical journals aloud in soft tones. The rabbit's reactions to certain medical terms suggested previous exposure to clinical settings. When Emma reviewed case files, Aurora would tilt her head at specific medical terminology, displaying an almost uncanny recognition of veterinary routines. The breakthrough in their relationship came unexpectedly. During a particularly severe thunderstorm, Aurora showed signs of extreme distress. Instead of retreating, she moved toward Emma's presence, seeking comfort. The simple act of trust from this highly trained, deeply traumatized creature carried profound significance. This wasn't just an animal responding to kindness, but a conscious choice to trust again. As days passed, Aurora began revealing more of her show training. Her movements carried the precision of years of practice, each gesture deliberately executed. She would arrange her food dishes in specific patterns, maintain perfect posture during examinations, and respond to subtle changes in her environment with extraordinary awareness. The veterinary community took notice. Specialists visited the clinic, amazed by Aurora's combination of professional training and natural intelligence. Her ability to anticipate medical procedures, her understanding of routine protocols, and her remarkable capacity for human interaction suggested capabilities that challenged conventional understanding of rabbit behavior. Emma found her own healing paralleled Aurora's recovery. The rabbit's resilience, her ability to overcome trauma while maintaining her extraordinary abilities, sparked something in Emma's medical instincts. The fear of failure that had driven her from veterinary school began to fade, replaced by renewed confidence in her healing abilities. The investigation into Aurora's case expanded as more connections emerged. Other recovered show animals shared similar stories of theft and abandonment. A network of affected breeders and owners formed, sharing information and supporting each other. Aurora's case became a catalyst for changes in show, animal security, and transportation regulations. Yet even as her story garnered attention, Aurora displayed new behaviors that defied explanation. Her responses to human emotions seemed almost empathetic. She would move closer to staff members showing signs of stress, adjust her behavior to accommodate nervous patients, and demonstrate an almost intuitive understanding of others' needs. Through it all, Aurora maintained that initial dignity that had struck Emma during their first encounter. Her intelligence shone through every interaction, suggesting capabilities yet to be fully understood. The combination of her show training, natural intelligence, and apparent empathy hinted at potential far beyond anyone's expectations. As spring approached, bringing fresh warmth to the clinic windows, both Aurora and Emma stood at the threshold of something extraordinary. The rabbit's journey from abandoned champion to something even more remarkable was just beginning. In their growing bond lay the seeds of transformation, not just for them, but for everyone their story would touch. The morning that changed everything began with a desperate situation. A critically injured kitten arrived at the clinic, barely alive after a car accident. The tiny creature's cries of distress echoed through the recovery ward, causing anxiety among the other animals. Yet Aurora's reaction stood apart from the rest. Instead of showing typical rabbit stress responses to the commotion, Aurora remained unusually calm. Her attention focused entirely on the source of distress. When the kitten was placed in a nearby recovery cage, something remarkable occurred. Aurora positioned herself as close as possible to the frightened feline, her presence radiating an inexplicable sense of peace. The clinic staff watched in amazement as the kitten's frantic cries gradually subsided. Its rapid breathing slowed to match Aurora's calm, steady rhythm. Dr. Patel noticed the kitten's vital signs stabilizing more quickly than expected. The usual post-trauma stress behaviors diminished when the kitten could see Aurora. This incident sparked Emma's curiosity. With Dr. Patel's permission, she began documenting Aurora's interactions with other recovering animals. A pattern emerged. Animals placed near Aurora's enclosure showed reduced stress levels. Recovery times improved. Even the most anxious patients displayed calmer behavior in her presence. The effect extended beyond the animal patients. Emma's daughter Sophie, visiting the clinic after school, gravitated naturally toward Aurora. The rabbit's response to the child revealed another layer of her abilities. When Sophie spoke about her school anxieties, Aurora listened with focused attention, her ears turning to track every word. The child's tension visibly melted under the rabbit's gentle gaze. Other staff members began noting similar experiences. During particularly stressful shifts, they found themselves drawn to Aurora's enclosure. Her steady presence and attentive demeanor provided unexpected comfort. She seemed to adjust her behavior to match each person's emotional state, offering energetic attention to those who needed cheering up and calm stillness for those seeking peace. Medical records began showing an unusual trend. Animals housed near Aurora recovered from procedures more quickly. Their stress markers remained lower, their appetite returned sooner, and their overall healing progressed more smoothly. Dr. Patel, initially skeptical, couldn't deny the mounting evidence of Aurora's positive influence. A breakthrough moment came when a severely traumatized rescue dog arrived at the clinic. The dog, found abandoned like Aurora, refused to respond to normal treatment approaches. Traditional calming methods failed, leaving the staff struggling to provide necessary care. In a carefully monitored interaction, Aurora's presence achieved what weeks of conventional methods could not. The dog's transformation in Aurora's presence defied medical explanation. Its fear responses diminished. Its defensive behaviors softened. Most remarkably, it began showing interest in human interaction again. The change was gradual but undeniable, as if Aurora somehow understood and communicated a path through trauma that humans couldn't access. Emma's scientific mind sought logical explanations for Aurora's impact. She researched studies on animal empathy and interspecies communication. Yet Aurora's abilities seemed to transcend current understanding. Her responses appeared too precise, too intentional to be dismissed as simple animal instinct. The clinic began adjusting its recovery ward layout to maximize Aurora's calming influence. Animals recovering from surgery were positioned within sight of her enclosure. Those struggling with anxiety received supervised time near her space. Each success added to the growing documentation of her extraordinary impact. Word spread through the veterinary community. Other clinics requested information about Aurora's techniques. Professional observers noted her unusual ability to maintain calm in chaotic situations, her apparent understanding of medical routines, and her exceptional awareness of others' emotional states. Yet perhaps most remarkable was Aurora's impact on Emma herself. Working with this extraordinary rabbit gradually rebuilt her confidence in her healing abilities. Aurora's gift for helping others despite her own trauma showed Emma a new way to view her past struggles. Every successful interaction, every small miracle of recovery, helped heal Emma's old wounds. As spring flowers bloomed outside the clinic windows, Aurora's influence continued to grow. Her presence transformed the recovery ward into a place of remarkable healing. The abandoned show rabbit had discovered a new purpose, far more meaningful than winning ribbons or performing tricks. She had become a healer in her own right. The growing collection of success stories attracted attention from unexpected quarters. A local children's hospital inquired about Aurora's abilities. News outlets picked up the story of the healing rabbit. Yet through it all, Aurora remained unchanged, continuing her quiet work of transforming fear into trust, pain into peace, trauma into healing. The children's hospital request arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. 6-year-old Lily Martinez, struggling through aggressive cancer treatment, had stopped responding to conventional therapy. Her mother had seen Aurora's story in the local news and reached out in desperation. Despite initial hesitation from hospital administrators, Dr. Patel and Emma prepared for Aurora's first visit beyond the clinic walls. In the sterile hospital environment, Aurora's presence created an immediate shift. Her calm demeanor remained unchanged by the strange surroundings. The rabbit who had once performed in show rings now moved with that same grace through hospital corridors, drawing curious glances from staff and patients alike. Lily's room fell silent as Emma carried Aurora inside. The child, curled away from the door, hadn't spoken in days. Aurora's response proved extraordinary. Instead of showing anxiety in the new environment, she focused entirely on Lily, her ears gently turning toward the small sounds of the child's breathing. The transformation began subtly. First, Lily's breathing pattern changed, matching Aurora's calm rhythm. Then, almost imperceptibly, her shoulders relaxed. When she finally turned to look at the rabbit, tears filled her eyes. Aurora maintained steady eye contact, exhibiting the same patience she showed with injured animals at the clinic. Medical staff observed with growing amazement as Lily began to respond. Her vital signs stabilized. Her anxiety levels dropped. Most remarkably, she started talking again, first to Aurora, then to her parents and doctors. The rabbit's presence seemed to awaken something in the child that medication alone couldn't reach. Word spread through the pediatric ward. Other parents requested visits. Each interaction revealed new facets of Aurora's abilities. With some children, she remained perfectly still, allowing them to stroke her fur while they underwent uncomfortable procedures. For others, she performed gentle versions of her show routines, bringing smiles to faces that hadn't shown joy in weeks. Hospital records began showing unexpected patterns. Children who spent time with Aurora required less pain medication. Their sleep patterns improved. Even their immune responses showed positive changes. The medical staff, initially skeptical, couldn't ignore the mounting evidence of her impact. The most profound moments often came in silence. Aurora would sit with absolute stillness beside children too weak to interact, her presence providing comfort words couldn't express. Parents reported their children sleeping peacefully for the first time in months after Aurora's visits. Some kids began timing their treatments to coincide with her schedule, finding strength in her steady presence. Emma watched in wonder as Aurora seamlessly adapted to each new challenge. The rabbit who had survived abandonment and trauma now helped others navigate their own difficult journeys. Her show training found new purpose in entertaining children confined to hospital beds. Her calm demeanor provided anchor points for young patients facing overwhelming fears. Medical professionals began documenting Aurora's sessions. Her impact extended beyond simple comfort. Children showed improved cooperation with treatment protocols after spending time with her. Their emotional resilience increased. Even their physical therapy sessions became more productive when Aurora was present. Research teams expressed interest in studying Aurora's methods. Her ability to connect with traumatized children, her impact on pain management, and her influence on recovery rates suggested possibilities that challenged traditional therapeutic approaches. Yet through all the attention, Aurora remained focused solely on those who needed her most. Parents started sharing stories of Aurora's influence. A young boy found courage to begin walking again after surgery, wanting to show Aurora his progress. A girl who had stopped eating began accepting nutrition to maintain strength for Aurora's visits. Each success built upon the last, creating a tapestry of healing that extended far beyond simple animal therapy. The hospital staff noticed changes in their own routines. Aurora's scheduled visits brought moments of peace to the often chaotic pediatric ward. Her presence seemed to lift the heavy, emotional weight that accumulated in places of healing and hurting. Even the most hardened medical professionals found themselves drawn to her quiet wisdom. As spring turned to summer, Aurora's impact continued to grow. The abandoned show rabbit had found her true calling. Her journey from the cardboard box behind the grocery store had led her to a place where her unique combination of talents, intelligence, and empathy could transform lives. Emma, watching Aurora work her gentle magic, understood now why their paths had crossed that rainy morning. Some animals were meant for show rings and competition ribbons. Others, like Aurora, were destined for something far more meaningful. In helping others heal, the remarkable rabbit had revealed the most surprising truth of all. Sometimes the deepest wounds become the source of our greatest gifts. Initial success with the pediatric ward brought both opportunities and obstacles. Hospital administrators raised concerns about hygiene protocols and liability issues. Some medical staff questioned the scientific validity of animal therapy in a clinical setting. The program's future balanced precariously between proven results and institutional caution. Aurora's response to these challenges revealed yet another layer of her remarkable nature. During evaluation sessions, she demonstrated an almost uncanny adherence to medical protocols. She naturally avoided sensitive medical equipment, maintained pristine grooming standards, and showed an intuitive understanding of sterile boundaries. Her behavior exceeded the standards of traditionally trained therapy animals. Documentation of Aurora's impact grew more comprehensive. Dr. Patel collaborated with hospital staff to track quantifiable changes in patients. The results proved compelling. Children in Aurora's program showed significant improvements in recovery rates, reduced anxiety medications, and shorter hospital stays. The numbers began telling a story that even the strongest skeptics couldn't ignore. Emma found herself navigating unfamiliar territory, transforming from animal shelter worker to program coordinator. Each challenge pushed her further from her comfort zone. Yet watching Aurora work with patience gave her strength. The rabbit who had helped her rediscover her calling now guided her through this new chapter. The children themselves became Aurora's strongest advocates. When budget discussions threatened the program, letters from young patients and their families flooded hospital administration. They shared stories of renewed hope, reduced fear, and faster healing. Their testimonies carried the weight of lived experience, more powerful than any clinical trial. Medical staff who had initially doubted Aurora's impact became some of her strongest supporters. Nurses reported easier placements when she was present. Physical therapists noted increased patient participation. Child life specialists observed improved emotional resilience in children working with her. The evidence mounted not through dramatic miracles, but through consistent, measurable improvements. Aurora's influence extended beyond individual patients. The entire pediatric ward atmosphere shifted during her visits. The usual tension of a medical environment softened. Staff reported lower stress levels, improved communication with patients, and more positive treatment outcomes. Her presence created a ripple effect of healing that touched everyone in her orbit. Professional interest in Aurora's methods grew. Other hospitals requested program information. Research institutions proposed studies on her unique approach to patient care. Yet Emma and Dr. Patel carefully managed her schedule, ensuring their extraordinary rabbit never became overwhelmed. Aurora's well-being remained paramount, her own journey from trauma to healing serving as a guide for responsible program growth. The most profound transformations often occurred in quiet moments. A child finding courage to face another treatment. A parent witnessing their first genuine smile in months. A nurse discovering renewed purpose in their work. Aurora's gift lay not in dramatic cures, but in helping others find strength they didn't know they possessed. Through it all, Aurora maintained that same dignified presence that had struck Emma that first morning behind the grocery store. Her journey from abandoned show rabbit to healing presence carried lessons about resilience, adaptation, and the unexpected ways trauma could transform into purpose. Each day brought new evidence that her greatest talents had nothing to do with winning ribbons. As summer warmth filled the hospital corridors, the program found solid ground. Careful documentation, consistent results, and unwavering support from patients and families won over administrative concerns. Aurora's work secured official recognition, opening doors for expanded animal therapy programs throughout the hospital system. Emma, watching Aurora gentle guide another child through a difficult procedure, realized how far they had both come from that rainy morning rescue. The frightened rabbit in the cardboard box had transformed into something extraordinary, not through magical powers or miraculous abilities, but through the simple, profound gift of connecting with those who needed her most. Fall arrived, bringing with it the first anniversary of Aurora's rescue. The changes she had inspired in 1 year stretched far beyond the walls of both clinic and hospital. Her story, shared through medical journals and heartfelt testimonials, sparked a revolution in animal therapy programs across the country. Other hospitals began developing similar initiatives. Though none could replicate Aurora's unique abilities, her example provided a framework for more comprehensive animal therapy programs. The abandoned rabbit had become a pioneer, her journey from show ring to healing work inspiring new approaches to patient care. The shelter where Emma worked transformed as well. Increased attention from Aurora's success brought new resources and opportunities. Animals once considered unadoptable found homes with families inspired by Aurora's story. The shelter began specialized programs matching rescued animals with therapy potential to training opportunities. Emma's own transformation proved equally profound. The woman who had once fled from veterinary school now led workshops on animal-assisted therapy. Her understanding of Aurora's methods, combined with her medical background, helped bridge the gap between traditional treatment and innovative healing approaches. The children whose lives Aurora touched carried her influence forward. Lily Martinez, now in remission, began volunteering at the shelter. Other former patients returned to visit, their stories of healing inspiring new families facing similar challenges. A community grew around Aurora's work, built on shared experiences of hope and recovery. Medical records told a compelling story. 1 year of documented cases showed consistent patterns of improvement among patients in Aurora's program. Recovery times shortened. Medication needs decreased. Most significantly, young patients showed increased emotional resilience during and after treatment. The results attracted attention from medical researchers interested in understanding the science behind Aurora's impact. The rabbit herself continued to surprise everyone with her intuitive understanding of patient needs. She developed different approaches for various situations. With newly admitted patients, she offered quiet comfort. For those undergoing difficult procedures, she provided gentle distraction. During physical therapy sessions, she demonstrated uncanny timing in encouraging movement and effort. Perhaps most remarkably, Aurora's presence began changing institutional attitudes about healing. Hospital staff who had once focused solely on medical protocols now recognized the importance of emotional support in recovery. The line between physical and emotional healing blurred as Aurora's results demonstrated how intertwined these aspects of recovery truly were. Her work with traumatized animals at the clinic continued alongside her hospital duties. Other rescued animals learned from her calm presence, their own recovery accelerated by her example. The show rabbit who had once performed for judges now taught other animals how to trust again, creating a cycle of healing that multiplied her impact. Parents reported lasting changes in their children's approach to medical challenges. Kids who had once faced treatments with terror now showed remarkable courage, inspired by Aurora's quiet strength. The rabbit's own journey from trauma to healing gave them a template for resilience, teaching them that past hurts could transform into future purpose. As news of the program spread, Emma received inquiries from around the world. Other medical facilities sought guidance in developing similar programs. Animal shelters requested information about identifying and training therapy animals. Aurora's influence rippled outward, touching lives far beyond those she could physically reach. The police investigation into the theft ring that had once stolen Aurora eventually led to arrests and reforms in show animal transportation. Her story highlighted the need for better protection of valuable show animals, leading to improved security measures at competitions and stricter monitoring of animal sales. Yet through all the attention and accolades, Aurora remained unchanged. Her focus stayed fixed on the individual before her, whether child or animal, offering the same steady presence that had first caught Emma's attention that rainy morning. Her true gift lay not in her show ring heritage or her therapy work achievements, but in her extraordinary capacity to connect with those in need of healing. On a bright spring morning, 2 years after Aurora's rescue, the hospital's pediatric ward hosted a special celebration. Children, families, medical staff, and shelter workers gathered to commemorate something extraordinary. The abandoned rabbit who had once shivered in a cardboard box had transformed not just her own life, but countless others. The numbers told one part of the story. Over 700 children helped through their medical journeys. Dozens of animals guided through trauma to recovery. Research papers published in medical journals documenting the Aurora effect in patient care. 15 new animal therapy programs established across the country following her model. Yet statistics couldn't capture the true depth of her impact. Lily Martinez, now cancer-free, stood before the gathered crowd, her voice strong as she shared her story. The girl who had once lost her will to fight now helped other children understand they weren't alone. In her hands, she held her acceptance letter to veterinary school, her future shaped by a rabbit who had shown her the healing power of animal connection. The shelter where Emma had first worked had evolved into a recognized center for animal therapy training. Former show animals, once valued only for their appearance, found new purpose in healing work. The very qualities that made them champions, their intelligence and training, now served a deeper calling. Aurora's legacy lived on through each animal that followed her path from trauma to transformation. Emma, watching from the side of the room, reflected on her own journey. The fear that had driven her from veterinary school had transformed into wisdom. Her understanding of healing now went far beyond medical procedures. Through Aurora, she had learned that sometimes the deepest wounds become the greatest gifts, that trauma could become a bridge to helping others heal. The medical community's initial skepticism had given way to recognition of a fundamental truth. Healing involved more than medicine. The presence of a small rabbit had demonstrated how connection, empathy, and understanding played vital roles in recovery. Aurora's work had helped bridge the gap between traditional medicine and holistic healing approaches. In the pediatric ward, where fear and pain once dominated, hope now lived alongside medicine. Children facing treatments asked not when they would get better, but when they would be strong enough to help others. Aurora had shown them that their struggles could have purpose, that their experiences could light the way for others. The rabbit herself, now comfortably settled in her special corner of the ward, remained unchanged by fame or recognition. Her silver-gray patches had whitened with age, but her eyes held the same wisdom that had first captured Emma's attention. She continued her work with unwavering dedication, each interaction as focused and intentional as the first. Perhaps the most profound part of Aurora's story lay in its ripple effects. The abandoned show rabbit had not only found her own purpose, but had helped others discover theirs. Children who experienced her care grew up to become healers themselves. Medical professionals who witnessed her work brought new compassion to their practice. Other rescued animals found their own paths to becoming healing presences. As the celebration continued around them, Emma sat quietly with Aurora. The rabbit who had surprised everyone with her journey from show ring to sanctuary now rested peacefully in her arms. Together, they had discovered that life's greatest transformations often come disguised as moments of despair. That sometimes what looks like abandonment is actually a door opening to something extraordinary. Aurora's story reminded everyone that healing takes many forms, that champions aren't always those who win ribbons, and that sometimes the most profound surprises come in the gentlest packages. The rabbit abandoned behind a grocery store had become something no one could have predicted. A pioneer in healing, a teacher of resilience, and a living reminder that every ending holds the seed of a new beginning. In the end, Aurora's greatest gift wasn't just in the lives she helped heal, but in showing how purpose can emerge from pain, how trauma can transform into triumph, and how sometimes the most extraordinary journeys begin with a simple moment of compassion in the rain. Subscribe to our channel for weekly stories that remind us of the extraordinary bonds between humans and animals. Every week, we bring you real tales of hope, healing, and unexpected transformations. Remember, sometimes the most remarkable stories begin with a simple act of compassion. Subscribe now and be part of the next chapter in stories that touch hearts and transform lives. Turn on notifications to receive alerts about new stories of hope and healing.